Coming up next on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, we discuss John Cena announcing his official retirement in 2025, plus a recap of last night's Money in the Bank Premium Live event, as well as MJF's heel turn this past Wednesday on AEW Dynamite. All this and a whole lot more right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
You're listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. It is July 7th, 2024, episode 32 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. We got a lot of things to talk about right here on this week's edition of the show. Of course, we are coming off the heels of Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank took place last night in Toronto, and we had two winners of the Money in the Bank. Now we only have one winner of the Money in the Bank, that being Tiffany Stratton, as one Drew McIntyre cashed in his Money in the Bank and unfortunately did not successfully cash in his contract, as CM Punk once again, this man be hating, CM Punk once again causes Drew McIntyre the World Heavyweight Championship, leaving Damian Priest to retain the World Heavyweight Championship, thus staying a part of the Judgment Day. So we're going to be talking about all that and much more. A lot of things happen in the realm of pro wrestling within WWE and AEW. On the WWE side, of course, we had Money in the Bank. When it came to Money in the Bank, it was a great show nonetheless. I really loved Money in the Bank. The crowd in Toronto was absolutely fantastic. I thought the match between Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins was great, even though a lot of people are pointing to that one botch. That one botch where Damian Priest did not kick out. When Seth Rollins pinned Damian Priest, he did not kick out, and it was all iffy and all weird, but that's all people are going to talk about. Me personally, I don't mind it, but I will be talking about that later on. Of course, we had the announcement by John Cena himself that he is officially going to be retiring as well, which I will be talking about. That is going to be a big topic within this show, because who are going to be some of the opponents that John Cena is going to be facing throughout 2025 next year? Of course, the Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and WrestleMania 41 will be his last of those particular events. He is going to be wrestling well after those events, but he's going to be officially retiring in 2025. We're also going to be talking about Forbidden Door. Of course, Forbidden Door happened last week, and it was a pretty good show. But if you were to rate out of all three Forbidden Doors, honestly, this year's Forbidden Door was probably the weaker out of all of the Forbidden Doors. Not to say, though, it was a bad show. It was a really good show. Of course, it was main evented by Swerve Strickland defending the AEW World Championship against Will Ospreay. I'm going to be talking about the Owen Hart Cup tournament, the return of Hangman Adam Page, as well as the heel turn from Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Yes, MJF is once again a bastard heel, and I absolutely love it. All In is shaping up to be one of the best shows of 2024, so I will be talking about that right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Before we get into all this craziness going on in the realm of professional wrestling, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. All right, let's get started with Money in the Bank. We're going to kick off the show by talking about last night's Money in the Bank. Overall, I thought Money in the Bank was awesome. Money in the Bank was a great show. Nonetheless, WWE with their PLEs, they continue to just be absolutely hot. Everywhere they go, man, the crowd is absolutely packed. Sellout crowds left and right. Not only that, the energy of the crowd has been absolutely insane throughout these past couple of PLEs. Of course, we had Backlash in Paris. We also had, of course, Clash at the Castle in Scotland. I mean, those two crowds could literally go toe-to-toe with one another, and if you were to choose between one crowd over the other, it'd be really hard to debate considering how good those crowds were. But let's go through the card real quick regarding Money in the Bank. Of course, we had 5 matches on this card for Money in the Bank. And of course, it is the old NXT TakeOver formula that Triple H has always adopted, quality over quantity. And nonetheless, I thought many of these matches absolutely delivered. There were some hiccups regarding one match in particular, which I will be talking about later on, but nonetheless, this was a from top to bottom, a really good show. We're going to start with the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Jey Uso took on Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, Chad Gable, LA Knight, and Drew McIntyre. A pretty good ladder match from top to bottom. Of course, in the end, Drew McIntyre teased this past Monday on Raw that he was going to win Money in the Bank, as well as cash in to become the World Heavyweight Champion. And Drew McIntyre definitely kept one of his promises, and that was he did win the Money in the Bank contract, and it set the tone for what the rest of the show was going to be, because you never knew, and the commentators even teased it. He very well could cash in on Damian Priest, but they also mentioned that he could very well cash in on Cody Rhodes during the 6-man tag team match. But Drew McIntyre, he won Money in the Bank, and he cashed in later on, but we will talk about that later on because it created a big discussion on social media. We had Sami Zayn taking on Braun Breaker, aka Steiner. I like calling him Braun Steiner because at the end of the day, Braun Breaker is a Steiner. But the way that they have been presenting Braun Breaker has been absolutely fantastic. We had Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship. A very good match. The way, and look, I've talked about this and I've said this earlier, the way that they have been positioning Braun Breaker throughout these past couple months, ever since he got called up to the main roster, has been absolutely fantastic. They are booking him exactly how like they would book Scott Steiner. Well, not WWE. I mean, when WWE brought in Scott Steiner, I mean, they booked him like trash. But like how WCW really booked Scott Steiner, you know, in that last full year of WCW as just a freaking maniac. Not as much of a maniac as Braun Breaker, but Braun Breaker is absolutely going crazy and running roughshod all over the roster. And that is exactly how you want to present Braun Breaker. I mean, every time when you see Braun Breaker wrestle and see him speak, considering he is a heel, he's very reminiscent of not only his father Rick Steiner, but very reminiscent of his uncle Scott Steiner, which is freaking awesome to see, man. The Steiner legacy continues. But Sami Zayn beats Braun Breaker and retains the Intercontinental Championship. Overall thoughts on this? I didn't really think it was the right decision, considering how they were positioning Braun Breaker, especially with the build for this match. I thought the build for this match, even though it was a short build, I thought it was pretty good. The way that they had Braun Breaker lose, honestly, to me, was kind of a missed opportunity. If there was any chance to take the belt off of Sami Zayn, it would have been this moment, but unfortunately, they didn't pull the trigger. We're going to have to wait later on to see what they are possibly going to be doing with Braun Breaker. I thought it was the wrong move. I mean, Sami Zayn did beat Gunther in a great match this past April at WrestleMania, and he had a pretty good run. I mean, with the matches that he had with Chad Gable, he had a pretty good run with the IC title. And one thing I will say about WWE now is they are putting a lot of focus with the Intercontinental Championship. They've been putting focus with the Intercontinental Champion when Gunther had it for all those months. But you know, there was a lot of concern within the community of how would they treat the Intercontinental Championship after Gunther's title reign. And honestly, what WWE has been doing with the IC title after Gunther's reign with Sami Zayn's title reign has been absolutely fantastic. And I see WWE continuing to do that. But again, if there was a chance for them to pull the trigger on Braun Breaker, this would have been the night to really strap him with the Intercontinental Championship, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. We had the women's Money in the Bank ladder match as Chelsea Green, Io Sky, Laya Valkyria, Naomi, Tiffany Stratton, and Zoe Stark all fought to be called Miss Money in the Bank. This was a great ladder match. A great ladder match. A lot of people are considering that this women's Money in the Bank ladder match was 10 times better than the men's Money in the Bank ladder matches. Me personally, I'm gonna have to wait and see. I gotta go back and watch both of these matches to really give my opinion. I did watch the show, but again, I gotta rewatch them to really make sure which one was better. But all I will say is the spots in this match were absolutely insane. That table spot that Chelsea Green took was crazy. Chelsea Green, I mean, of course, I don't want to say she was over, but a lot of people, you know, were loving Chelsea Green in this match. It would have been funny if they gave Chelsea Green the Money in the Bank, but let's be honest with ourselves. There was only one logical way. There was only one logical woman to win the Money in the Bank, and that was, of course, Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton, I mean, out of all the women, you can say Io Sky, but Io Sky did win Money in the Bank last year. I mean, Tiffany Stratton, let's be honest with ourselves, she has the rocket. She's set for superstardom. She's clearly going to be a big star in the future, and Tiffany Stratton winning Money in the Bank was definitely the right decision to make. Moving on, I'm not going to talk about Damian Priest and Seth Rollins because that is actually, I'm going to go deep into that match because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to that match and a lot of discourse when it comes to that match. We got the Bloodline taking on Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton. Of course, this new incarnation of the Bloodline with Solo Sikoa being your tribal chief, Tama Tonga, as well as, of course, Jacob Fatu. And you can include Tangaloa, but Tangaloa did not wrestle in this match. So you have Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Tangaloa, the Gorillas of Destiny, as well as a debuting Jacob Fatu, which, by the way, Jacob Fatu in this match, if there was any positive or any MVP from that 6-man tag team match that took place last night at Money in the Bank, it was freaking Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu looked like a killer. He looked like an absolute killer. And that is exactly what you want in booking a guy like Jacob Fatu. You really need to make this guy strong. You know, Solo Sikoa was the enforcer for Roman Reigns. And really, look, I love what they have been doing with Solo Sikoa, even when he first debuted on the main roster. But let's be honest, Solo Sikoa has been losing matches throughout his majority main roster run. Jacob Fatu, in my opinion, needs to be undefeated. Like, this guy needs to be undefeated 110%. In the end, Solo Sikoa, of course, all the baby faces were down, which led to the opening for the Bloodline to gang up on Cody Rhodes, and that led to Solo Sikoa pinning the undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes. And from what it looks like, everybody expected, you know, whether or not, if the baby faces lost, that Randy Orton could possibly turn on Cody Rhodes, opening them up for a possible match at SummerSlam between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. That is not going to be the case, and from my speculation, I assume, is that WWE is possibly going to be waiting on that feud either to the fall or maybe until WrestleMania. So we're going to have to wait and see about that. But with Solo Sikoa pinning Cody Rhodes, that opens the door, of course, for Solo Sikoa to face Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam in Cleveland. And it's the right move, because that match, of course, is going to open the door for a Roman Reigns return. They've been teasing this whole Roman Reigns return for months with the whole "We Want Roman" chant after WrestleMania, and of course, after Solo Sikoa took on the mantle, quote-unquote, as tribal chief, with them whacking Jimmy Uso, with them whacking Paul Heyman. This whole match that's going to happen at SummerSlam is going to open the door for a Roman Reigns return. How is that going to take place? We do not know. But my prediction is that this is going to lead to a Bloodline versus Bloodline feud, and that's going to escalate in Survivor Series at War Games. So, honestly, this was a great match. The Bloodline winning, I mean, you had to establish this new Bloodline as an unstoppable force, per se. And this was the best way for them to do it. Them pinning Cody Rhodes, I understand if some people are a little bit upset, but at the same time, it is a 6-man tag team match. Not only that, it opens the door for Solo Sikoa to get a title shot against Cody Rhodes. So honestly, I'm not mad about it. They made Solo Sikoa look strong. Jacob Fatu looked crazy. When he was about to hit that RKO, man, and Jacob Fatu literally just stood up behind Randy Orton. That was one of the craziest spots I've ever seen. That was crazy. That really made me pop. But nonetheless, that was a great 6-man tag team match. Oh my God, I dropped my pen. But moving on, we got Damian Priest taking on Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. This match was great. I loved this match. Of course, the stipulation of this match was if Damian Priest wins, Seth Rollins no longer challenges for the world title, I believe, as long as Damian Priest is champion. But, of course, if Seth Rollins wins the world title in this match, that means Damian Priest is kicked out of the Judgment Day. And I made the prediction that if Damian Priest won, because to me it felt logical for Seth Rollins to win the world title. I was very critical on Damian Priest's title run, but after Clash of the Castle, it really changed the dynamic when it came to Damian Priest. And from what it looks like, Damian Priest is going to drop the belt to Gunther. I mean, it makes total sense for Damian Priest to drop the belt to Gunther, because we all know Gunther, since he won the King of the Ring, Gunther is going to be the World Heavyweight Champion, and he's going to hold on to that title for a long period of time. So honestly, I'm not mad with the decision, but again, Damian Priest retains the World Heavyweight title. Now, there was some controversy in this match, and the controversy of this match was Rollins hitting the Falcon Arrow, but when Rollins went for the cover, the referee counted to 2, and Priest did not kick out. Priest did not kick out, and it did not look as good as a lot of people thought it was, and everybody was nagging about that and talking about that botch all over social media, to the point where a lot of people are considering this to be one of the worst botches ever, and it completely overshadowed everything that CM Punk did, blah, 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 blah. What are my thoughts on that whole thing? In my opinion, it is no big deal. Accidents happen in wrestling. Everybody's nagging on one botch. I know it looks bad, but I try not to let that botch affect my opinion on what the overall match is. And to be honest, I thought the match between Damian Priest and Seth Rollins was really good before the inclusion of Drew McIntyre. Now, with the inclusion of Drew McIntyre, it went to a whole new level, because it was just pure chaos at that point. But nonetheless, I'm not mad about the botch, because, look, botches happen. I mean, constantly everybody rags on AEW when it comes to the botches. One botch that happens in WWE, calm yourself. Relax. It's not a big deal. Accidents happen. And Triple H as well said it in the press conference. Look, we're human beings. We make mistakes. And he even said, look, Priest, the positives outweigh the negatives with Priest. He had a great match. And, Priest is probably kicking himself about the whole botch, but again, accidents happen. Now, Fightful did put out an update regarding the whole fiasco that took place, and I'm going to read it to you right now via Fightful Select. There was an issue with the World Heavyweight title match at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view that left many puzzled. During the Seth Rollins Damian Priest World Heavyweight title match, there was a situation where a near fall wasn't actually a near fall. Following the Falcon Arrow from Seth Rollins, there was to be an interruption, though many fans online were debating which that was to be. Though the champion Damian Priest didn't kick out, the referee didn't count to 3. The referee, Rod Zapata, was the one who was actually fined after WrestleMania 35 when Ronda Rousey didn't keep her shoulder down, and he counted 3 anyway, with the line of thinking that matches should have been called as shoots. However, those that Fightful spoke to claimed that times and circumstances changed. Of course, this is a new regime, and that there wasn't heat on Priest or Zapata. Of course, because accidents happen. Those that Fightful Select spoke to claimed that Priest was supposed to kick out based on chatter after the show, including Triple H addressing as much on the post-show. Priest was said to have been fine in the immediate aftermath. As for Zapata, him actually counting the 3 would have resulted in the title switching to Seth Rollins, and because of that, the Drew McIntyre cash-in would have been a one-on-one match, and the no DQ rules would have not been applied, and CM Punk's attack would not have been deemed legal. Rollins' stipulation of not challenging for the title would have been invalid, and the WWE would have been put into the corner where Priest was no longer in the Judgment Day, per the rules of the match. In all, one WWE backstage source says, quote-unquote, it was an unfortunate situation, but those don't usually happen with Damian Priest, and he was probably more bothered about it than anyone. I would assume that too. Considering how much he gives himself, it would be silly for anyone to hold that against him. It's just a quote-unquote shit happens situation. Like I said, stuff happens. Some assumed that Drew McIntyre's music hitting was supposed to interrupt the count. Nobody would confirm or deny this, but one producer said that it wasn't the vibe that they got based on Triple H's comments. The same producer said that music shouldn't stop a pinfall count anyway. I 100% agree. I do agree. Now, in one instance, I can remember, if you guys want to go back to Survivor Series 2014, when, of course, it was Team WWE versus the Authority. I believe it was a scenario in which Triple H pedigreed. He pedigreed. What was it? Dolph Ziggler. And then, of course, I believe it was Seth Rollins that was going to go for the pin. And Scott Armstrong, who was, I believe, like the heel authority referee, kind of similar to Nick Patrick in 97 with the NWO. He went for the count, but then Sting's music played. And then he just kind of stopped. If you look on his face, if you look at his facial expression, he did stop. Honestly, look, again, when it comes to this whole scenario, look, Drew McIntyre, whether or not his music was going to play affecting the count, honestly, who gives a shit? It was an accident. It happens. Did it look bad? Yes, but again, it's not going to affect my opinion on the match. I thought the match was really good, to say the least. But moving on. Let's talk about the Drew McIntyre cash-in, because this caused a lot of speculation. Not a lot of speculation, but a lot of chit-chatter on social media. A lot of people, and the majority of everybody, were happy of the outcome. The majority of the people were happy of the outcome. But at the same time, a lot of people believed that the quote-unquote Money in the Bank briefcase was wasted. And on one hand, I would understand, but I'm going to explain to you guys why I disagree with this. So what happens is Drew McIntyre, he comes in, right? Of course, he won Money in the Bank as the first match of the night. He wins the briefcase, and of course, you knew he was going to cash in. You knew he was going to cash in. So he cashes in during the match. He officially cashes in, and the match officially becomes a triple threat match. So what happens is Punk out of nowhere comes in and attacks Drew McIntyre. He takes him to the timekeeper's area and hits the chair repeatedly on Drew McIntyre and then chokes him with the cable. Yes, this is a brand new WWE, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a situation in which Bryan Danielson choked, Justin Roberts back in 2010, causing him to be fired from the WWE. You guys remember that? I remember that. But he chokes him with the cable, and then he hits him with the chair once again. Then Punk looks at the world title, and he grabs the world title belt. Meanwhile, Drew McIntyre goes back in the ring. He goes back in the ring, and he gets hit with the belt. After that, Punk sits on the announce table, and Drew gets hit, of course, with the South of Heaven chokeslam after getting hit with the belt. CM Punk, the biggest hater in the world, literally watched as Drew McIntyre's world crashed before his eyes as he gets hit with the South of Heaven chokeslam, and Priest retains the World Heavyweight Championship. And of course, not only that, more importantly, Damian Priest is still a part of the Judgment Day. Overall thoughts on this. This was expected, but the outcome, the outcome of this honestly was fantastic. This feud between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, and I talked about this last week, and I talked about this 2 weeks ago. The feud between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre is honestly the most hyped feud of 2024. There's no comparison to any other feud, whether that is WWE or AEW. There's no comparison. This feud right here is the pure definition of a blood feud, and I'm here for it. Of course, what happened at WrestleMania with Drew McIntyre winning the world title and CM Punk getting so pissed off, which opened the door for Damian Priest to cash in the Money in the Bank. Then, of course, CM Punk, I believe the next night on Raw, cost Drew McIntyre with the #1 contendership. Then, of course, he caused Drew McIntyre in Scotland, which then led to basically Drew McIntyre attacking CM Punk in Chicago. Then CM Punk coming back for revenge. I mean, bro, CM Punk, again, this whole thing has been next level hating on the hand of CM Punk, and this feud honestly has been absolutely fantastic. But one thing that I really loved about this whole angle that took place was after the match. Because after the match, we all know Seth Rollins lost this match, but Seth Rollins did not get pinned in the match. Seth Rollins, of course, can no longer challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship as long as Damian Priest is champ. I believe it's as long as Damian Priest is champ. And if you look at the look on Seth Rollins' face while CM Punk was sitting on the announce table, Seth Rollins was pissed off. He was very much pissed off at CM Punk, and that opens the door for a potential Seth Rollins and CM Punk feud. Of course, that was the original match that was set to take place at this year's WrestleMania in Philadelphia. But of course, CM Punk tore his tricep. Seth Rollins had a minor injury, but he still wrestled at WrestleMania anyway against Drew McIntyre. So really all was said and good. But if you were to tell me, and I talked about this last week, if you were to tell me that a feud between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk would be this interesting. I'd laugh in your face. Because this feud, if you think about it, this feud between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk is everything that Seth Rollins versus CM Punk should have been. But now, with Seth Rollins being involved, it's going to make the future Seth Rollins and CM Punk feud that much more interesting. So, honestly, everything that WWE is doing with this angle, with this feud, has been tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. I am loving everything that they're doing. And I assume Punk is going to get cleared by SummerSlam. He's definitely going to get cleared by SummerSlam, and we're going to be getting a one-on-one match between these two men at SummerSlam in Cleveland. That's my big prediction, but nonetheless, this was a great angle. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. Because, of course, WWE now does post-shows. They do post-shows, kind of similar to the pre-shows. Of course, they do the press conferences after, but they do the post-shows right before the press conference. And what happened was Drew McIntyre went on that panel and he was freaking ballistic. He was absolutely ballistic. And you want to know what happened? You want to know exactly what happened? He was so mad. He wanted to look for Punk. He was like, I know Punk is still in the building. What happens? Adam Pearce comes in and Drew McIntyre elbows Adam Pearce, of course, who is the current Raw GM in kayfabe, of course. And that opens up a whole new can of worms for Drew McIntyre. Then Wade Barrett comes in. He tries to really calm Drew McIntyre down. He's trying to calm him down, saying, if you put your hands on on Adam Pearce once again, your career is done. Your career is done, all that stuff. And then Drew McIntyre walks off and just pissed off more than ever. Now, Adam Pearce via social media, of course, in kayfabe, basically stated that he is going to fine Drew McIntyre for him elbowing him. Or actually, no, he's going to fine both CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, and he's going to suspend Drew McIntyre for elbowing him. So again, this whole feud has been way more interesting, especially involving Adam Pearce, getting hit with an elbow by Drew McIntyre, as well as Seth Rollins getting, involved in this match. Not getting involved in this match, but really getting involved in the feud, opening up the door between Seth Rollins and CM Punk, which is going to be absolutely tremendous all alone. But nonetheless, this feud has been absolutely amazing, and I'm very excited to see what WWE does in the future. All right, moving on. Another thing that happened at Money in the Bank was the face that runs the place. Yes, the doctor of thugonomics. The greatest of all time, says Michael Cole. The 16-time world champion, John Cena, came out to the crowd in Toronto, Canada, and cut a great promo. Of course, Trish Stratus was the host of Money in the Bank. And John Cena came out, and usually when John Cena does his entrance, he always pulls up the banner saying, "My time is now," or having a catchphrase like "hustle, loyalty, respect." You get the gist. But when John Cena pulled up the banner in his entrance and it said, "The last time is now," I already knew what he was going to talk about. And if you guys have been living under a rock and did not watch Money in the Bank last night, John Cena announced that in 2025, next year, the Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and WrestleMania 41 will be his last of those events, because John Cena will be officially retiring in the year 2025. John Cena, who made his main roster WWE debut, his official main roster WWE debut on SmackDown in 2002 against Kurt Angle, which he lost, by the way. WWE will not tell you that, but he did lose to Kurt Angle. But he did look really impressive in that match. He will be officially retiring from World Wrestling Entertainment. What a career that this man has had. Honestly. John Cena, in my opinion, is the pure definition of how a top guy should handle himself. John Cena, he was basically the Hulk Hogan of my generation. If you wanted to give a Mount Rushmore of WWE, I'd go with Hogan, Rock, Austin, and Cena. Honorable mention, maybe Triple H. But those 4 men, Hogan, Austin, Rock, and Cena. Cena was basically the last true face of the WWE. Now we got Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes is really the face of the WWE right now. But John Cena was really, like, before Cody Rhodes, there was John Cena. John Cena got me into wrestling. I'll never forget it. I don't remember exactly, but I can remember watching... I became a wrestling fan in 2010. I was a big YouTube guy. I remember I used to watch the old Fred videos, and I was excited when Fred the movie came out, and I would watch it. I was like in 2nd grade or 3rd grade, and I watched it, and John Cena was on there, but I didn't know that was actually John Cena. And I can remember my friends, when I was in 3rd grade, every Friday we would like do whatever we want after gym class. And I can remember my friends playing with wrestling action figures. And I was like, hey, man, I want to be involved with wrestling. Like, I just thought, like, oh, my friends have wrestling figures, so I want to get a wrestling figure. So I remember I asked my mom if I could get a wrestling figure. And I remember us going to Toys R Us, and she got me one of those early Mattel figures with the orange attire John Cena figure. It was a basic figure. It was not an elite figure. It was a basic figure. And, yeah, that's how I really got into wrestling. It said John Cena. I got John Cena. And then I became a wrestling fan ever since. I've been a big fan of John Cena for years. I mean, John Cena is arguably one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. You know, I can remember entering in my teenage years, and I was listening to the internet to boo John Cena when John Cena was getting those mixed reactions. I can remember my first WWE event was SummerSlam 2016 at the Barclays Center. And the show stealer of that show was John Cena versus AJ Styles. Now, they did have a match at Money in the Bank, but Gallows and Anderson interfered in that match. AJ Styles pinned John Cena clean in the middle of that ring. It was a fantastic match. And it was ultimately a dream match because, of course, AJ Styles, John Cena, I mean, they were always compared for years when, of course, AJ was in TNA, John Cena was in the WWE, of course. John Cena's a WWE lifer. But, I mean, that old Pro Wrestling Illustrated cover in early 2006 of John Cena and AJ Styles, you know, showcasing WWE versus TNA, like, bro, that was a dream match, and I got to witness that. And then, of course, they topped that match at the Royal Rumble in 2017. But, I mean, John Cena, I mean, has had an amazing career. I mean, of course, he was the U.S. champion. He was the WWE champion. He won the WWE title against JBL in a not-so-great match, but, I mean, he made up for it in their match at Judgment Day in that I Quit match. I mean, there's a lot of John Cena matches that I can literally name you. I mean, John Cena, again, is one of my favorites, and it's going to be very sad when he retires because, I mean, and I believe, I think the streamer, his name is Kai Cenat, said it best in a YouTube short that I saw. I mean, with John Cena retiring, it's showing all of us, at least in my generation, like, we're all growing up, man. Like, we're all growing up. I mean, John Cena has been a part of my childhood for fucking years. Forgive me for my language. But for years. And we're going to see this man retire. He's not going to... His last match is not going to take place at WrestleMania. His last WrestleMania that he's going to be competing in will be at next year's WrestleMania. So the details of his retirement is he will be a part of the Royal Rumble Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania 41, but he will wrestle throughout January to December of 2025. So his last match is going to be in December of 2025. This is going to be a wild ride because that means we're going to be getting John Cena on WWE TV most likely for the majority of the year. I mean, of course, he has his own schedule. Of course, he's a big movie star now. He's taken a similar route that The Rock took, and John Cena is more recognizable than ever. Not just in WWE, but in movies and everything. Like, he is a mainstream crossover star now. He's a big Hollywood star. So how is his Hollywood schedule going to interfere? I don't know. But he will be a part of WWE TV throughout the majority of 2025. And honestly, I'm very excited because there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, bro, we can get a John Cena Braun Breaker match, a John Cena Gunther match, a rematch between John Cena and Seth Rollins, maybe a John Cena versus Roman Reigns match. I mean, I know we've seen that multiple times, but I mean, I would love to see one again. a John Cena versus Cody Rhodes match, John Cena versus Randy Orton. For the amount of times that people have been nagging on that, every time when they would book John Cena versus Randy Orton, we're getting John Cena versus Randy Orton again. Actually, I want to see it again. Hey, that could be a WrestleMania match for next year. Who knows? But I'm very, very, very excited to see what WWE does for this John Cena retirement tour that they're going to be doing. It is going to be very emotional. It's going to be very emotional because it's going to mark an end of an era. It's going to mark an end of an era for at least my generation, but not just my generation. I mean, other generations of wrestling fans, even Attitude Era wrestling fans, the ones that crapped on John Cena during his peak are going to be very emotional once he retires. Because we all crapped on John Cena for WWE shoving him down our throats, but we really weren't appreciative of the service that John Cena gave. But not only that, as the years went on, everybody started to appreciate the work ethic of John Cena, and that is the note that I want to give to you guys on this podcast. John Cena, he will be known for as one of the greatest of all time, not just for his work in the ring, but his work outside the ring. The amount of Make-A-Wishes that this man has granted has been absolutely insane. I believe he has done the most Make-A-Wishes out of any wrestler. But not only that, the way he carried himself outside the ring, the guy was very disciplined. There was barely any incidents regarding John Cena whatsoever. No issues with John Cena at all. The guy always was a professional. And that is the biggest takeaway that I can give to you guys when we're talking about John Cena. He was not only the greatest of all time or the GOAT inside the ring, but he was realistically the GOAT outside the ring. And for that, he has a lot of respect to even the fans that crapped on him during his peak. And that is something to be proud about. And honestly, it's going to be very emotional to see John Cena officially retire. It's going to be a wild ride, and I'm absolutely here for it. Congratulations to John Cena. Thank you, John Cena. It's going to be insane, and I'm definitely excited for John Cena's retirement tour. Continuing on with the WrestleHavoc podcast, we are going to be talking about premium live events for WWE. Of course, if you guys don't know, they actually made the announcement yesterday. WWE will be officially bringing back the Bad Blood pay-per-view. Yes, they will be officially bringing back Bad Blood, and it will be taking place in Atlanta, Georgia, at the State Farm Arena on Saturday, October 5th, 2024. And honestly, what are my thoughts on this whole announcement for Bad Blood? Number one, the video package, the promo package that they showed with Metro Boomin and Cody Rhodes was absolutely awesome. I mean, the mainstream appeal right now for WWE, it's not like a couple of years ago where they try to get mainstream publicity and it was so forced. In this case, when it comes to mainstream publicity, bro, the mainstream publicity is just, it comes off as genuine and it comes off as so cool. Not only that, I mean, I always thought Cody Rhodes was cool, but Cody Rhodes being next to Metro Boomin, honestly, that was mad cool too. But nonetheless, they announced Bad Blood, and this is actually going to be the fourth Bad Blood in its history. Of course, the very first Bad Blood took place 27 years ago in 1997. It was very famous for the very first Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. WWE did actually bring back the pay-per-view for 2003 and 2004. This was during the initial brand split, and it was a Raw exclusive pay-per-view. And of course, 2003, I believe, was main evented by Triple H versus Kevin Nash, with Mick Foley as the special referee. And of course, in 2004, in 2004, it was main evented in a Hell in a Cell match as well with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and I believe that is considered the longest Hell in a Cell match in WWE history. But nonetheless, what are my thoughts on them bringing back Bad Blood? It's absolutely fantastic. I can remember them wanting to bring back the Bad Blood pay-per-view back in 2017, but if you guys don't recall, instead of them bringing back Bad Blood, they replaced it with Great Balls of Fire, one of the worst names for a pay-per-view. I thought it was very stupid for them to call it Great Balls of Fire, but this was WWE in 2017. They were on a downward trend when it came to their creative direction, but nonetheless, them bringing back Bad Blood is fantastic. It's going to take place in October, and no doubt about it, we're most likely going to get a Hell in a Cell match at this show. I mean, my prediction is that we're probably going to be getting CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre inside Hell in a Cell. I do think they are going to be wrestling at SummerSlam in Cleveland. I do believe that. But if they really want to have a blow-off for that feud, I predict that we're possibly going to be getting a Hell in a Cell between both CM Punk and Drew McIntyre inside Hell in a Cell at this Bad Blood show. But nonetheless, them bringing back old pay-per-views, I mean, we've kind of known for a while. They did trademark the Bad Blood name a couple of weeks ago. But, I mean, them bringing back the name, honestly, is fantastic. And I'm definitely excited to see how this pay-per-view is going to shape up, because now we live in an age where WWE is not afraid to use blood. If you guys don't remember, back during the Vince McMahon regime, if you want to call it that, even in recent years, whenever they would use blood, they would always have like an official come in and clean the blood off of the wrestler, and it became so lame. I remember we had that, I believe, in 2015 at the Hell in a Cell show with Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. It was very stupid and ridiculous. I mean, it's a fucking Hell in a Cell match, and you're going to have blood in the match, and then you're going to have an official clean off the blood inside a Hell in a Cell match? Give me a break. But, I mean, we live in an age now where, look, I'm not going to call it the PG era, because I know I've seen a lot of posts of people calling it, oh my God, the PG era is finally over. The PG era has been over for a while. It's been over for a while. But now, with Endeavor having basically full control of WWE, they're going the UFC route and basically making WWE more geared towards the 18 to 34 demographic, more towards people my age or people in their 20s and 30s. And I'm here for that, because again, WWE throughout the past couple of years has been on a downward spiral in terms of their creative direction. From a business perspective, they've been booming, even during the down times. But when it came to their creative direction, they were just going down, down, down. And this past year and a half, I should say, starting in the summer of 2022, was where we really started to see the shift. And now in 2024, everything is starting to come full circle, and really WWE is showing everybody how they want to produce their product now, especially now under Endeavor. We've seen all these production changes that they have been doing, a lot of positive production changes ever since Kevin Dunn has resigned from the company. So a lot of great changes in WWE ever since the Endeavor merger was completed. And now with Bad Blood coming back, bro, I am 100% seated for this. I'm definitely excited for what we're possibly going to see on this show, but nonetheless, Bad Blood will be officially coming back on Saturday, October 5th in Atlanta, Georgia at the State Farm Arena. Now, in terms of WWE PLEs, here are the remaining PLEs, and I'm only going to talk about main roster. I'm not going to mention NXT that we have left for 2024. So, for SummerSlam, it's going to take place August 3rd, 2024, and it's going to take place at Cleveland Browns Stadium in Cleveland, Ohio. We also got Bash in Berlin. That's going to take place in Berlin, Germany at the Mercedes-Benz Arena on August 31st. Of course, we got Bad Blood on October 5th at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. We got Crown Jewel November 2nd, 2024, which I assume is going to be in, I believe, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, or Riyadh, I don't know. And we got Survivor Series, which we do not know when Survivor Series or where Survivor Series is going to take place. And my hope for Survivor Series is, look, I want Prudential Center, but WWE, ever since returning to the road back in 2021, they have never returned to Prudential Center, and I am a New Jersey native. But if they can't do Prudential Center, I pray and I cross my fingers that Survivor Series comes to Madison Square Garden this year. It has to be a part of Madison Square Garden, especially with the War Games with the Bloodline. Honestly, it just fits so well. So I hope Survivor Series is an MSG, but we do not know where Survivor Series is going to be taking place this year, but hopefully, in my opinion and my prediction, I hope it's MSG. But that's the main roster WWE PLE schedule so far. Moving on with the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Of course, it is episode 32 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. It is July 7th, 2024. Before I get on with all the rest of this craziness going on in the realm of professional wrestling, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Of course, we're going to be moving on with all the topics going on in the realm of professional wrestling. We're going to be shifting gears to All Elite Wrestling, AEW. We're going to start by talking about their Forbidden Door pay-per-view. Of course, Forbidden Door took place last week, and overall, I thought it was a pretty good show. I really enjoyed the show for what it was. Was it the best Forbidden Door out of all the three Forbidden Doors that we had? No, and the only reason I say that is because, again, and I said this last week, all of the top stars from New Japan, so your Switchblade Jay Whites, your Kazuchika Okadas, your Will Ospreays of the world, are all with AEW now. AEW signed almost all of the top stars of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and there was really no intrigue when it came to the Forbidden Door. A lot of people are even saying that the Forbidden Door concept is dead. I don't want to necessarily say that it's dead, but again, there's no interest in it. I don't want to say it's dead. There's just not a lot of interest when it comes to the Forbidden Door concept. And not only that, of course, that led to AEW moving towards CMLL and adding CMLL a part of the mix when it came towards the Forbidden Door concept, which, look, the talent in CMLL is great, but I don't watch CMLL. So that's just my opinion. But nonetheless, we're going to go through the results for Forbidden Door real quick. MJF defeated Hechicero, and honestly, to be fair, it was really a nothing match, and this was when MJF was still a babyface, which I'll talk about his heel turn later on right here on the show. The Elite defeated the Acclaimed and Hiroshi Tanahashi. Look, I'm loving the Elite stuff, but at the same time, they really got to dim it down with the comedy, because if you really want me to take the Elite seriously, they really got to stop with doing all of this comedy. But I will say, I'm loving Kazuchika Okada with his whole bitch tagline. It's hilarious. Bryan Danielson defeated Shingo Takagi in the first round of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, and he actually defeated Pac this past Wednesday on Dynamite. Toni Storm defeated Mina Shirakawa and retained the AEW Women's World title. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Orange Cassidy in a great match. Samoa Joe and Hook and Katsuyori Shibata defeated Chris Jericho, Big Bill, and Brian Keith. Don't get me started on the whole learning tree crap, because it's arguably not only one of the worst things in AEW right now, the whole learning tree stuff is one of the worst things in all of professional wrestling. It's garbage. Jack Perry won the TNT title ladder match and is the new TNT champion. Mercedes Moné defeated Stephanie Vaquer for the TBS title and the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Stephanie Vaquer looked absolutely fantastic in that match. A lot of people are even advocating, once her contract with CMLL is up, that either WWE or AEW could possibly pick her up. So I wouldn't be surprised if either one of those two promotions could pick her up, because she was fantastic in this match. But Mercedes Moné defeated Stephanie Vaquer, and she is not only the TBS champion, but she is also the New Japan Strong Women's Champion, and that opened the door for Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, to finally make her return to All Elite Wrestling. Of course, they had a tremendous segment this past Wednesday on Dynamite with, of course, Britt Baker explaining why she was out for so long, what she was dealing with from a health standpoint, and, of course, the interruption of Mercedes Moné. From what it looks like, Mercedes Moné is shifting towards a heel turn and possibly aligning herself with the Elite. They had a great back and forth, and most likely we are going to be getting a match between the two at All In, which I'll talk about later on, because All In is shaping up to be a great card. We got Tetsuya Naito defeating Jon Moxley for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, which was very shocking, because I could have sworn, I would have thought that Jon Moxley was actually going to retain the title here, but that wasn't actually the case. And the main event, Swerve Strickland defeated Will Ospreay to retain the AEW World Championship. Everybody called Swerve Strickland a transitional champion, but from what it looks like right now, that is not the case, as Swerve Strickland is now, the top guy in AEW, and he is going to main event AEW All In this August at Wembley Stadium. What are my thoughts on this main event? I uploaded a short on YouTube Shorts and on TikTok and on Reels. I uploaded a short video of me discussing why Swerve Strickland defeating Will Ospreay was the right decision, and I still stand by that statement. Swerve Strickland defeating Will Ospreay was definitely the right decision to make. I can remember them announcing this match, and I was like, huh? Not from a standpoint of, I don't want Will Ospreay to win the title. I want him to win the title. But at the same time, when they first announced this match, I thought it was a little bit too early for Will Ospreay, 3 or 4 months into his run in AEW, to get a world title shot. Not only that, he's the current international champion. Then a lot of people created speculation of, hey, AEW may be onto something in terms of Will Ospreay. Maybe they want to build him up. That's why he lost. They're basically giving him the Cody Rhodes treatment. What do I mean by the Cody Rhodes treatment? Cody Rhodes lost at last year's WrestleMania. We waited until a whole year at next year's WrestleMania, or I should say this year's WrestleMania, until he won the big one. And the fans did not lose faith in Cody Rhodes. Could AEW possibly go that same route with Will Ospreay? I 100% do think so. Because from what it looks like right now, Will Ospreay is not going to be challenging for the AEW World Championship. He's not going to be challenging for the World Championship. And honestly, that is best for Will Ospreay. Because I'd rather have AEW build up Will Ospreay, and I talked about this in the short that I uploaded. I'd rather have AEW build Will Ospreay. I'd have them build Will Ospreay and build sympathy with the audience and really increase that connection that Will Ospreay has with the audience. Because everybody that criticizes Will Ospreay, the people that hate on Will Ospreay just think that he's a great wrestler and nothing else. Will Ospreay, if you think about it, is the total package. Will Ospreay is the total package. I don't care what anybody says. Will Ospreay is the total package. He not only can wrestle, and he's one of the best in-ring performers today, bar none. Nobody comes even close. Maybe Seth Rollins, but nobody comes even close when it comes to in-ring performance. Maybe Ricochet, but Will Ospreay right now, from an in-ring standpoint, is the best wrestler in the world, period. He just is. His psychology is on point. The match, this match alone, the match that he had with Kenny Omega last year at Forbidden Door was fantastic, but this match was off the charts. The story, the emotion, everything about this match was great. The story that they were trying to tell with Will Ospreay, Don Callis gave him an object to cheat on with. I believe it was the same object that he beat Kenny Omega with last year at Forbidden Door. He refused not to, which ultimately cost Will Ospreay the entire match, which ultimately led to Will Ospreay just leave the Don Callis family as a whole. But nonetheless, Will Ospreay has the look, he has the in-ring ability, he has the charisma, he has that connection with the audience. Every time when he makes his friggin' entrance, the crowd, I'm starting to hear the crowd is starting to sing his theme song. Not only that, he cuts a great promo, man. The promo that Will Ospreay cuts is absolutely fantastic. People say, oh, it's the same thing. I'm the best wrestler in the world, blah, blah, blah. But just the tone, whenever Will Ospreay speaks, you listen. And I love that about that. So Will Ospreay, in my opinion, is the total package, and is an exact representation of what AEW really needs in a top guy. So I'd rather have AEW build Will Ospreay up until he wins that world title. He will win that world title. He is guaranteed to win the AEW World Championship. But again, time is not now. I thought it was very early for Will Ospreay to get a title shot, but even though Will Ospreay lost, he still looked strong in defeat. Now, when it comes to Swerve Strickland, what is Swerve Strickland going to be doing for All In? Well, of course, I didn't watch Collision, but I saw the results of Collision. Of course, we got Hangman Page. Hangman Page returned this past Wednesday on Dynamite, defeating Jeff Jarrett. Hangman Page was the wild card, and Hangman Page is officially a heel. And he's a heel that honestly gives no two shits. He has been presented very well ever since returning this past Wednesday on Dynamite. And hats off to AEW. Because Hangman Page, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated performers of this generation. I really do think that. Everybody's like, oh my God, he's a piece of crap for what he did to CM Punk. He was the catalyst of all this drama in AEW. Yeah, you may say that, but out of the entire, situation with the Elite and CM Punk, Brawl Out, Brawl In, Hangman Page was the most professional out of everybody, if you really think about it. But not only that, Hangman Page is still relatively over with the audience, but now he is a heel. And we're going to be getting the fourth match between Bryan Danielson and Hangman Adam Page this Wednesday on Dynamite. Of course, they faced off against each other 3 times. The first time was at Winter is Coming, back in December of 2021. That was when they first wrestled, and it ended in a 60-minute time limit draw, which is one of the best matches, in my opinion, in Dynamite history. Then they wrestled a couple weeks later in the first Dynamite on TBS, which I was actually there for. It was a great match in which Hangman Page beat Bryan Danielson to retain the AEW title. Then they wrestled, I believe it was 9 months later, during the Grand Slam Tournament of Champions, when they had to crown a new AEW champion after CM Punk relinquished the title after the events of Brawl Out. Yeah, they did face off during that tournament, and Bryan Danielson advanced in the tournament, and he ended up facing Jon Moxley for the world title at Grand Slam that year. So we're going to be getting the fourth match between Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson. That is the pure definition of a AEW Dynamite main event. That match is going to go hard. I'm telling you right now, I'm very excited for that match. But nonetheless, when it came to Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland, it was a great match, phenomenal match. But we're moving forward. Swerve Strickland is still the AEW World Champion, and he's going to be leading towards All In at Wembley Stadium. Now, the card is not officially set for All In. It is not officially set, but AEW has started to build towards All In beginning this past Wednesday on Dynamite, with multiple different angles that they have done. And this past Wednesday's Dynamite was fantastic from a storyline perspective, and they've been getting criticized a lot when it comes to stories. And look, it's not the case of AEW not telling stories. It's the fact that many of the stories that they tell don't have a lot of heat when it comes to their stories. But this past Wednesday on Dynamite was very different. They did a segment with Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné, which clearly is building towards a one-on-one match between Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker at All In. And it was a great segment, by the way. If you guys haven't checked it out, check it out. It is on YouTube. That's one All In match. You got Hangman Adam Page versus Bryan Danielson, and that match could honestly go either way. My prediction is that we're possibly going to be seeing Hangman Page beat Bryan Danielson, and it's going to be Hangman versus Swerve at All In the main event, which I'm not against, because that feud between Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland was one of the best feuds last year in AEW. And honestly, them main eventing All In, if there is a guy to take the belt off of Swerve Strickland, it is Hangman Adam Page, in my opinion at least. Or it could go to Bryan Danielson. It could honestly go to Bryan Danielson if you really think about it. It could go to Bryan Danielson. Considering the fact that Bryan Danielson right now is in his, I don't want to say retirement tour, but it is his last full year as a full-time performer. It is his last full year as a full-time performer, and AEW could possibly have a scenario in which they could want to belt Bryan Danielson. And if they want to belt Bryan Danielson, honestly, I'm not against that whatsoever. Bryan Danielson winning the AEW Championship, in my opinion, is something I've been wanting to see ever since Bryan Danielson showed up in AEW back in 2021. I genuinely believe, if you guys don't recall that Grand Slam match between Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson, which is not their best match. Their best match was at Revolution 2022. Their Grand Slam was not really the best, still a good match. I still felt that Bryan Danielson should have won that match, but honestly, it didn't, because we still got MJF versus Bryan match later, like a couple months later at Revolution, and it was one of the best matches that AEW ever produced. So honestly, it could go either way, but we do have Hangman Page versus Swerve, or Bryan Danielson versus Swerve. But if you do Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland, what is Hangman Page going to do? So I assume that Hangman Page is going to beat Bryan Danielson, and we're going to get a Swerve and Hangman match. So that's another thing. But you also got Blood and Guts, which opens the door for Hangman Page to actually have a reason to team up with the Elite, considering Swerve Strickland is going to be a team AEW, and it's going to escalate in Blood and Guts, which I'm definitely excited about. But you have that, and you also have the heel turn of MJF. MJF, we got to talk about this, because the heel turn of MJF last Wednesday on Dynamite was fantastic, in my opinion. One of the best things that AEW has done all year. Dynamite definitely closed with craziness. Of course, I'm talking about MJF turning heel. MJF wasn't lying when he says all he's going to be doing is hate, hate, hate. And this is what this man was preaching. This whole angle that they did with Daniel Garcia and MJF was pure hatred. Hate, hate, hate by MJF. Here are a couple of notes about what took place last Wednesday on Dynamite. So this took place after the Will Ospreay and Daniel Garcia match, which was a great match. Of course, they're building up Daniel Garcia. And, of course, the angle last week, the opening segment of Dynamite, was MJF came in, basically cut a babyface promo putting over Daniel Garcia. And Daniel Garcia, or he challenged Daniel Garcia to a match at All In. And then Will Ospreay came in, kind of outshined MJF, and he says, hey, I'll put the international title on the line, and also if I win the world title at Forbidden Door, I will put the world title on the line as well. Well, of course, that didn't happen, and it was just a match for the international championship. Will Ospreay and Daniel Garcia had a great match. Of course, MJF gave Daniel Garcia the Dynamite Diamond ring, but Daniel Garcia refused. That led to Will Ospreay gaining the advantage and winning and retaining the international championship. The same finish happened to Daniel Garcia. The same thing happened to Daniel Garcia on what happened. The same thing that happened to Will Ospreay at Forbidden Door happened to Daniel Garcia. So what happens after the match? Of course, Daniel Garcia is upset. Will Ospreay puts him over. He pats him on the back and then leaves. MJF does the same thing and he blames himself. He's like, my fault. I'm fully responsible for what happened. You wanted to do the right thing. I respect that. He picks Daniel Garcia up, and what happens is that he ends up giving a low blow to Daniel Garcia after Ospreay beats Daniel Garcia in that great match. He grabs the Dynamite Diamond ring and he punches Daddy Magic, leaving Daddy Magic bloodied to a pulp on the outside. And he hits it on Daniel Garcia once he gets up. And then he basically flips off the crowd. He's pissed off at the crowd, and he beats down security, and he hits repeated rights on Daniel Garcia. Max then grabs the head of Garcia, and as the camera points towards him, Max says, "Did I restore the feeling now? This is your boy. This is your boy." Great shot. After that, he spits in the face of Daniel Garcia. He just snots all over Daniel Garcia at this point. He goes to the top rope and pile drives Daniel Garcia. Christopher Daniels comes in, and he's basically the Adam Pearce of AEW. I don't like that role. It fucking sucks, in my opinion. But Christopher Daniels comes in, and all the referees come in to attend to Daniel Garcia. Will Ospreay comes in, but then Max leaves, and he ends up arguing with the fans closing Dynamite, which clearly opens the door for a Will Ospreay and MJF match at All In. Overall thoughts on this angle that took place. This was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic on all levels. Now, there's a lot of questions that fans are asking when it comes to the angle that AEW did regarding MJF. And the main question that everybody's asking is, what about Adam Cole? What about Adam Cole? Because clearly, with the return of MJF, we were going to see an Adam Cole versus MJF match based off of the events that took place at World's End this past December. But the roles are different now. MJF is no longer a babyface. He is officially a heel. Adam Cole is still relatively a heel, but we haven't seen Adam Cole in a while. And let's be honest, the Undisputed Kingdom is a failed experiment. Nobody cares about the Undisputed Kingdom. It had no heat to it whatsoever. It sucked. Everything that the Undisputed Kingdom did in AEW was pure garbage, in my opinion. I absolutely hated it. So where do you go on with MJF and Adam Cole? Honestly, it's either they do the match, but the roles are reversed. Adam Cole is going to be the babyface and MJF is going to be the heel. Who knows? But at this point, we don't have to worry about that, considering we do not know the current circumstances of Adam Cole and when Adam Cole will be able to be cleared to return to in-ring action. We just don't know. We don't know. But MJF being a heel, in my opinion, is better off, because right now, and what I love about AEW now, and look, there's a lot of problems with AEW from a creative standpoint, but one thing that I love AEW, and one of the things that I'm digging that they're doing, is they're trying to build towards the future. Their main event scene, if you really think about it, is fucking stacked. They got Will Ospreay, they got Swerve Strickland, they got Samoa Joe, they got MJF, Kenny Omega once he returns. We're going to get Kenny Omega, bro. Like, bro, there's a lot of possibilities. And MJF turning heel was possibly the best decision for him. I'm not saying that his babyface run was bad. It wasn't. If anything, I dug his babyface stuff, because the reactions that MJF was getting were genuine. They were all genuine. But due to the circumstances right now, honestly, MJF turning heel was definitely the right decision. Especially if you want to do an MJF versus Will Ospreay match, which is clearly something that they are building towards. It only makes sense for Will Ospreay to be the babyface, especially going into Wembley Stadium, bro, the UK is literally Will Ospreay's home turf. It's his home turf. He's going to be a heel in his home turf. That just makes no sense. MJF is clearly going to be the heel in this match. Now, another question that fans are asking: where does Daniel Garcia go from here? Daniel Garcia was, if you really think about it, in the centerpiece of all of this. Yes, this is building towards a Will Ospreay versus Daniel Garcia match. Or, a Will Ospreay versus MJF match, I'm sorry. But where does Daniel Garcia lie when it comes to this whole thing? A lot of people are saying this match should happen at All In. Now, from the outcome of the actions of MJF this past Wednesday, it looks that way. But with Will Ospreay coming in to the aid of Daniel Garcia after MJF ran away, they're doing the Will Ospreay and MJF match at All In. If you were to compare MJF versus Daniel Garcia to MJF versus Will Ospreay, MJF versus Will Ospreay is clearly the bigger match. It's clearly the bigger match. There's no buts or ifs. So what can you do? Some people are speculating that they could possibly do a one-on-one match at the Blood and Guts special show a couple of weeks from now. I wouldn't be against that. But I don't know if you guys are aware, All Out takes place 2 weeks after All In. Yeah. A mistake in my opinion on AEW's part. I don't know why. And I crapped all over this last year. I don't know why All In took place a week after All Out. All Out took place a week after All In. The fact that All In is taking place, or All Out, Jesus Christ, I'm getting both of these names confused. The fact that All Out is taking place 2 weeks this year after All In is stupid in my opinion. It should take place in late September, not early September. Especially if you're paying $50 for that. But if you want to build towards one match, you can do an MJF versus Daniel Garcia match at All Out in Chicago. You can do that. But we'll see what AEW does. A lot of people did not like the incorporation. Look, some people loved the incorporation of Daniel Garcia. Some people didn't. I loved the fact that Daniel Garcia is a part of all of this, because it gives something for Daniel Garcia to do. This is something that AEW should do with more of their guys, honestly. Look at guys like Hook. Hook, in my opinion, is finally doing something different with pairing with Samoa Joe and Shibata. But in my opinion, that's really not enough. Hook should be doing more. Hook has been doing the exact same thing in AEW ever since he debuted for the company. Ever since he made his official debut. FTW title, no FTW title. He's been doing the exact same thing. More of this. More of the way that they're booking Daniel Garcia right now. We need more of that in AEW. That's just my opinion. But clearly, we're gearing towards a MJF versus Will Ospreay match, and honestly, I'm not against that whatsoever, because you want to stack this card up so much. You really want to stack this card up as the best possible card that you have, because All In is AEW's answer. It's basically their WrestleMania, but when I say that, everybody gets mad at me saying, "Oh my God, it's not WrestleMania. WrestleMania is WrestleMania." All In is AEW's answer answer. Listen to my words. All In is their answer to WrestleMania. It is their biggest show of the year. Already 40,000 tickets have been sold for this event, and not one match has been officially announced. Think about that. We already know 3 matches that AEW is building towards. Hangman versus Swerve in the main event, which is clearly the direction that they are going. MJF versus Will Ospreay, which makes total sense as well. And Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker. One criticism that AEW had last year was the build to last year's All In. The build to last year's All In my opinion, was very lackluster. The card was great, but the build was very lackluster. It just was. AEW is learning their lesson, and they realized, look, we have 2 months to build towards this big show. Let's use all of this television time to actually build stories that are actually intriguing and have heat to them towards our big show. So I commend AEW for that, and I love what they're doing. All out, All In. Jesus Christ, I'm getting All In and All Out confused. All In is going to be a fantastic show, in my opinion, and I'm very excited to see what AEW does for All In, because we already have 3 matches that we already know are going to happen. All right, moving on to our final story. We're going to talk about Ricochet. Ricochet is an interesting topic, because Ricochet, his contract is officially up with World Wrestling Entertainment. Yes, Ricochet is officially a free agent. I'm reading this from Fightful. Fightful reported in recent months that former Speed Champion Ricochet's WWE contract was set to expire. Fightful can confirm that as of midnight on July 1st, Ricochet's deal with the company has officially expired. The company moved him to their alumni section on June 30th, a few hours before his deal was up. However, he was not contractually able to appear at the AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door show. Sources within WWE and AEW expect Ricochet to join All Elite Wrestling. As Fightful Select reported on Sunday, despite speculation, Ricochet wasn't planned to face Will Ospreay at All In, at least as of recent weeks. Ricochet was written off of WWE TV by Braun Breaker several weeks ago and was not used again and wasn't at the following television tapings. For those asking about Samantha Irvin, she expected to continue with WWE, which makes total sense. Samantha Irvin right now is doing phenomenal work. Phenomenal work in WWE. Now, they did provide an update on Ricochet headed to AEW. Ricochet is most likely headed to AEW, according to Fightful Select. In June, Fightful Select reported that Ricochet was finishing up with the WWE and expected to join AEW. His contract was up on midnight July 1st, and he was contractually unable to appear at the Forbidden Door show. On the Fightful Select Discord on Wednesday night, Sean Ross Sapp posted that Ricochet wasn't set for the show. However, Ricochet is expected in the company soon, and there was some interesting movement on that. Ricochet's agent was backstage at AEW this week, and Fightful has been told that he'd been leading the subsequent talks between the two sides. Ricochet's agent also represents a number of other talents across WWE and AEW. Is it Barry Bloom? I don't think so, because really Barry Bloom is for all of the main eventers out there. Not to say that Ricochet is not a main eventer, but I'm just saying, I don't think it's Barry Bloom. But whatever. What are my thoughts on Ricochet? I didn't get a chance to talk about this. I was going to talk about this 2 weeks ago, but I completely forgot to talk about the topic. What are my thoughts on Ricochet? And most likely him possibly going on his way to AEW. Ricochet, honestly, to AEW makes total sense. I don't care what anybody says. A lot of people jump the gun saying, "Oh, he's probably going to be another guy. He's going to be, he's going to be, lost in the shuffle," and that very well could be. There's a track record of a lot of guys that came from the WWE that went to AEW that ended up being lost in the shuffle, considering the fact that Tony Khan has signed a lot of guys. But think about this, Ricochet. What has he done in the WWE? Yeah, he did great when he was in NXT, but when he went to the main roster, I believe he did win the U.S. title. He did win the Intercontinental title, but let's be honest with ourselves. There was a ceiling for Ricochet in the WWE. With Vince McMahon, he was not viewed as a main eventer. Even with Triple H, he was not going to be viewed as a main eventer. He's not the best talker, but if you really think about it, it all depends on the stuff that WWE gives you, because in WWE it's very much contaminated in what they want you to speak of when it comes to promos. But now with the new regime, it's a little bit more laid back, and that's a good thing. But when it comes to Ricochet, I feel like the best course of action for Ricochet's career, in my opinion, is for him to branch out and leave WWE. And he clearly saw that. There was a ceiling that he was going to reach, and he reached that ceiling, and he was going to stay there if he stayed with the WWE. He was not going to be a world champion, a WWE champion, a world heavyweight champion, not even. He was going to be just strictly relegated to the mid-card. And with the talents of a guy like Ricochet, it would suck. Now, is Ricochet great on the microphone? No, he's not the best on the microphone. But we need to see, I mean, usually when wrestlers branch out in the WWE, we really see the majority of their capabilities. I mean, case in point, look at a guy like Mustafa Ali. I mean, Mustafa Ali right now is doing the best work of his career. I believe he's the current X Division champion in TNA. His presidential campaign character has been fantastic. It all depends on how you market yourself outside of the WWE. Now, Ricochet, from what it looks like from these reports by Fightful, he's on his way to AEW. But again, when he goes into AEW, are they going to immediately jump the gun on the Will Ospreay and Ricochet match? Because that's the match everybody wants to see. Everybody wants to see Ricochet versus Will Ospreay. Everybody wants to see that rematch from many years ago in New Japan. But, again, are you just going to hotshot that match, or are you actually going to have some build for that match? I mean, they did have a couple of back and forths on social media. If Ricochet is on his way to AEW, I'd build on that social media hype. But also, it's up to Ricochet to build what type of character he wants to be. But do I think Ricochet is on his way to AEW? Yes. Do I think he will be a success there? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. I'm not just going to immediately say he's going to get thrusted in the main event scene, because it doesn't work like that. The company, both WWE and AEW, have ongoing plans of what they want to do and how to do it. And just by incorporating Ricochet into the main event scene, it's not that simple. So we're going to have to wait and see what AEW does if they bring in Ricochet, which most likely they will. Another thing that we need to ask ourselves is, when are they going to debut Ricochet? My prediction is that they're going to debut Ricochet at the All In show, and he's going to have a face-off with Will Ospreay. That's what I see happening. But we're going to have to wait and see. Do I think Ricochet will go to AEW? Yes. Do I think he will be a success? Yes, I do think he will be a success, but at the same time, how big will that success be? You know what I'm saying? There is a big track record of AEW, losing the shuffle on a lot of guys, or guys getting lost in the shuffle, I should say. Could that happen to Ricochet? Yeah. But, again, we're going to have to wait and see. We can't be the judgment of other case point scenarios because, again, everybody's experience with any organization is different. You know what I'm saying? Ethan Page just called AEW unorganized. That's his opinion because, again, that's his experience. Ricochet also has his experience in the WWE. Swerve had his experience in the WWE. Everybody has their own unique experiences, no matter what organization they are a part of. Everybody's experience is different. It's not the same. But I do think Ricochet is on his way to AEW. And if he is on his way to AEW, that is the right career choice for him. Or he may not be on his way to AEW, and he could tear it up on the independents. And he could market himself on the independents and be his own boss. That's the route that Mustafa Ali took. And it worked out pretty well for him. So we're going to have to wait and see what they do. But nonetheless, Ricochet is currently a free agent, and right now it looks like he is on his way to All Elite Wrestling. But yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc Podcast, episode 32. It is July 7th, 2024. We definitely talked about a lot of things right here on the show. Nonetheless, man, a lot of things going on in the realm of professional wrestling. I mean, we're on the road to SummerSlam. We're on the road to All In. Bro, a lot of things are going on right now. I mean, All In is shaping up to be a great card. With the events of Money in the Bank that took place last night with Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, I'm definitely excited. A lot of things are happening in the realm of professional wrestling within both WWE and AEW. But aside from that, we definitely talked about a lot of topics. And with that, please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. I mean, look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc channel, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricker Gervais, signing out. I'll see you guys all later. Peace.